Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Doug, the retirement guy, and we have something that's kind of new. We're going to talk about is the OverlayShares ETFs. Now, this has been popping up on our YouTube comments quite a bit, and we wanted to sit down and say, hey, let's take a little deeper dive into these funds of exactly what is OverlayShares and what are they good for. And we're going to explain it all today. And two of their biggest funds, and we're going to talk about the other ones, but OVL is the large cap income ETF, and OVS is a small cap income ETF. All based, does this fit the retirements or not? So we're going to be looking at the option overlay strategy, the income enhancement, and the potential upside of these funds. Before we do, we got to do a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters and all of our YouTube subscribers. Thank you so much for being a part of our channel. And if you're not part, don't be afraid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single episode. Let's get into today's video. Important disclaimer, the content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice, and the presenter is not a financial advisor. Investing involves risk. Income is never guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results in any way. If you need help, always contact a financial licensed financial professional, as we are not. So I want to just give a fair shout out there to our Retirement Made Easy Living on Dividends coffee mug. This is really what supports the channel. $8.99 plus shipping. Real simple, easy to get. Use the QR code on the side. Go into the description down below. You can see the link right there. But basically, guys, we kind of put this together. I cannot believe how much support you guys have given us. We're almost done with our second full run of coffee mugs, ready to place our third order. Something simple, something unique, something different we thought we would try, and you guys seem to be loving it. So just want to put it out there, our quick ad on our coffee mug for only $8.99. We really appreciate the support, and if you don't be afraid, order one up. Makes for a great late Father's Day gift or anytime around anyone into retirement. So we're going to start off with is really the retirement problem. Income is only one piece of the puzzle. In retirement, you need 3 jobs from your portfolio, and that is income to help pay your bills, growth to fight inflation, and risk control. We don't talk a lot about, so that we're not really chasing yield. So we want to make sure that we know every dollar that we put into the system is going to one of these 3 categories so that we can know what each rule is for each dollar. Never look at yield itself. Yield is just a mathematical number. It gives you a starting point, but does not tell you anything about a fund. Doesn't tell you if it's healthy, doesn't tell you if it's good, bad, or ugly. It just tells you that this is the percentage that it's going to pay out. So let's see what are OverlayShares ETFs. What are they? Well, the structure is fairly simple. It's a core ETF exposure to stocks, bonds through underlying investments. Okay. It also does put spread overlay. Now, this is where the overlay comes into. It's put spreads option strategy overlaid on the top. The goal is to give you incremental income and return potential. Now, this is not a pure index fund. I want to be clear with this. It's not a standard cover call fund. It's an income style exposure with options overlay. So basically think of it as a cake with options over the top as the frosting to give you that overlay opinion. What it does, the overlay will help protect the downside, leaves the upside potential wide open. And when you're doing puts, you're basically saying that you're going to sell when the price comes down to this level. Okay. And then you're going to reset yourself and come down to another level. So it gives you that protection that you can get basically, I'll call it in and out of a market fairly quickly. Now, the lineup that they offer is an interesting one, and this came out about 2013 is when overlays really started to come into play. And they were good at times, and then they had a bunch of changes. They used to pay quarterly, now they went to monthly. A lot of different things changed to make these a little more attractive, especially for retirement investors. The equity funds, they focus on basically three categories. Large cap exposure, which technically is going to be the S&P 500. You're going to do the OVS, which is a small cap exposure, which is primarily similar to the Russell 2000 category. And then we're going to do the OVF, which is the foreign equity exposure, which is a great thing if you don't have any international in your portfolio. It's a great fund to be looking at. Then we switch over to the fixed income, which is going to be your core bond exposure, municipal bond exposure, and then short-term bond exposures. And really, these are kind of the 6 categories that we always want to look at. You always want to verify that the current fund lineup before investing, because ETF families can add and change products on a regular basis. So these are the 6, I call their foundation funds that they've really had. So how does the put spread overlay really work? So let's talk about the formula that they use. First off, what they do is they sell out of the money put, which collects a premium. So to put it in a very simple system, very simple way, let's say the fund is worth $100, and you're going to say, we will sell it at a put, which is a loss, of $90. So once the price gets down to $90, you're capable of buying that particular fund. They do it at zero out of money, so it's a very short, very quick little opportunity to gather that momentum. Now it buys further out of the money puts of select items. So it defines its risk to the lower downside. So it's like you're setting this, I call a ladder. You're at the first rung of the ladder. You're going to buy the second rung of the ladder or the third rung of the ladder. So as the market comes down, you're already protected. You're already down at that point. So the net is the premium minus the protection cost is that potential income source. Now the premium is not free money. The fund is getting paid for taking control of the downside exposure. Okay, a lot of funds out there use what we call covered call options. They're selling the upside of a particular fund. These guys are giving you a protection of the downside, leading the underlying assets to grow naturally across the board. So why is this different from covered calls? Well, covered call ETFs sell calls to collect income and really income only. It can cap the upside in strong rallies, and income can come at the expense of growth. So not all funds work this way, but majority of the covered calls definitely work where they're, again, selling those calls, selling the future of the fund, caps the upside. So they're saying if your $100 fund, you're going to say, I'll sell it at 110. And if it goes to 120, you're going to lose that extra $10. So, but they're collecting the premiums for that income and basically giving up that extra growth. The put spread overlay sells put spreads to collect that net premium. It tries to preserve the upside participation and takes control of the downside. So this is where we're starting to talk about the risk side of things. This is covering your risk a little bit more than the covered call side. So you just don't want to ask what's the yield. You want to ask what are you giving up? So you may be getting some great yield numbers off of a covered call, but you're giving up all your growth at the same time. So you've got to understand how the systems work. So why the short-dated options? Well, short-dated options can reset risk frequency. Okay, so if you're really doing this every week, you can reset what's the market doing. Are we having a negative drop off? Are we having a positive run? You can want that flexibility to basically have the reset. Now, these guys use a weekly reset. So at the beginning of every week, they get the reset where they're looking at what's going to happen. The premium collected and the risk is refreshed across those expirations. Options tend to lose value faster near expiration. Laddering helps avoid one single expiration date controlling everything. I've seen this in many other funds that you'll see they'll set it for a month. And at the end of the month, man, the fund looks horrible. It's because they know the expiration date's gotten so close that it's not even going to hit a particular number and it just gets washed away. So let's see how the strategy has actually worked with a couple of the funds. The OVL, first off, OVL shares the large cap equity. Now the fund has about $276 million in assets. The expense ratio is 0.79, so right in line with a lot of the other funds. It has 5.51 million shares, and the yield was 6.48% over the past 12 months. So you can see the yield is a little bit down on the funds. Now we're not looking for this for big income. This fund came out in September of 2019. But when we take a look at the year-to-date growth already, we're at 6.09%. When you look at the growth over 12 months, you're at 16.85%. Now, as I've always told you, yield is not always the number one tool to look at. You want growth, but we also look at the total return number. And let's take a look at this. Over the past 12 months, it has a total return of 26.04%. And when you take a look at your basically at your yield, immediately you're saying, okay, so we're talking about a 19% growth area somewhere in there. You can see where we're getting close to a 16. So you really know that just real quick, simple math without digging deeper, as I've done here, you can already say, yep, this one's got heavy growth versus heavy income. Now, year to date, it's up 11.76%. And that is the total return. When we look at this thing farther out, 5 years, average 13.41%. Average since inception. So when you take a look at its inception, basically we're looking at almost darn close to 7 years now, 17.08%. Now, majority of that, again, is going to come to you in that basically, I'm going to call a 6% yield with about a 10 to 11% of growth. So these are really designed as growth funds. When we look at the sister of it, OVS, this is the small cap fund, $29 million in assets. Not as big. This is the one concern I have with the funds, and that would be that the assets is not as big as it should be. This thing's about 10% of what the OVL is. And they both came out on the same exact time. Expense ratio is a little higher, 0.83, but only has 760,000 shares outstanding. Now, it paid the yield. Even though it's a smaller dividend amount, $2.82, the yield is $6.71, paying out monthly. And remember, these things used to be quarterly. Now they've switched to the monthly. So it's getting a little bit more attraction, but still nothing going crazy. I like to see this thing, and I believe this one has a little bit of liquidity issues in my book, strictly because of only being at 29 million. I'd be worried about this in my retirement fund. But the numbers are very impressive. When we look at that yield of 6.71, and we take a look at the total return at 36.80 over the past year, that's telling you you got some serious growth. And year to date, 17.79% is their growth number, with a growth for past 12 months of 26.59%. We look at the total return numbers over the past month, 4.85% growth. Year to date, 23.55, 36.8 for the 1 year. Now 6.99, this is the one that again, this is why you look at these things. 6.99 average over 5 years. I want to dig deeper now to find out, why are we so low? Why are we only at 6.99? And when we look at inception date, which again is going to be about 20 years, excuse me, not 20 years, 6 years, we're looking at inception of 12.24%. So the one that throws me for a loop, the numbers right now are looking really great, but why do we have a 5-year deal? This is where you look at charts, you look at different things, and start questioning. And when you have a question, we got to find the answer. So the risk management is really the story of these particular funds. This is not the maximum return at any cost. That laddered weekly structure, the spread risk across multiple expiration dates, gives you a higher, safer risk pattern. The protective puts use the part of the premium to defend that downside protection. Its adaptive process adjusts exposure as the markets change. And the prudent objective of this is a reasonable return with a controlled added risk. That's why you don't see the huge yields. You see some big growth because it's allowing itself in this day and age market. It's allowed itself to grow, but you're just getting a little bit of yield coming off of it. So if you're a yield player like myself that you need income from your portfolio, this maybe not be the piece, but I do add this thing gives me some added risk protection, and it helps me in the growth fund of it. So right off the bat, I'm trying telling you this is not an income play. This is more of a growth play in my 3-bucket retirement system. So where could this really fit? Well, realistically, this is not a complete whole retirement plan. This is an enhanced core equity exposure. Okay. So realistically, I put this more as a satellite type basis. It's an enhanced core equity exposure. It add on the overlay to a bond allocation. So if you want to be more safe or more protection, you may look at their bond side of things to give you that more security side. You may use these in the growth package of a 3-bucket system for getting more and more growth. For seeking income without giving up all the upside, yeah, you're getting some income. But again, I think cover calls put you in a better position. This is more of a safety position. Use an inside of a broader retirement income framework. It's very similar to my 3-bucket system. These are add-on pieces to the 3-bucket system. But don't make one strategy with the whole plan. You don't take these 6 funds and create a retirement package. Or you don't take and say, I'm going to take OVL and retire off of OVL. It's not designed for that. This is really, I go back to that. It's an enhancement to the core of your retirement portfolio. So some of the trade-offs, no ETF strategy gets paid for taking zero risk. Sharp market declines, the short put spreads can temporarily detract from the performance. Options risk, the premium is earned by accepting defined downside exposure. If you're not seeing downside exposure, your yield is going to drop even more. It's a complexity. Investors must understand the overlay, not just the yield. Okay, you have to understand, and this really puts in there the complexity is understanding the risk part of it, the risk factor that they're building in, not just, oh, I'm only getting 6%, not a fund to have. There's other reasons, not built just for income. Now, the tax treatment, you need to check the fund taxments at the year-end tax forms for what type of account this really would fit well into. So is this a good strategy? Yeah, I'm going to say maybe. It's a risk-free strategy? Absolutely not. Is it going to help some of your risk? It can help cover some of your risk part of it. There's no free lunch out there, guys. This is really what we kind of look at across the board. So in my scorecard, this is what I do. Income potential, I think it's got a strong concept. I like the concept of it. I like that it's letting it naturally, I call it naturally grow. And you're going to, if it in a fluctuating market like we're in now, you're going to get some income because it's going to have the downside. The upside participation, it's better than many call sides of it, which is why I lean to this saying this is more of a growth fund. The downside risk is defined and it's real. The complexity of it is a higher than plain ETFs. So it is a higher complexity system in place. How does it fit? It really fits as an add-on. It's a satellite, not as a whole hardcore piece in a portfolio. It's really one of these things you put in your growth package and you have some protection across the board with it. We'll do some comparisons up against other funds to show exactly what we're talking about, where it fits and how it'd be a great combo into the 3-bucket system. But really does improve a whole retirement plan. not just the monthly income numbers. It helps across the board with growth. It gives you a little added income, but it gives you some more of that risk factor that we talked about at the original point. Let me know what your thoughts are of these funds. Leave a comment down below. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, and we'll see you next time.